Two Durham police officers accused in a deadly and devastating crash.
A wrong-way highway pursuit that left 4 people dead. Tonight, criminal charges laid. Good evening. The province's Special Investigation Unit announced the charges this afternoon.
An infant and his grandparents were killed in the crash. Police chasing a robbery suspect the wrong way on the 401 at the time. CTV's Beth McTonnell joins us live with the update on the story. Beth.
Michelle, the SIU says it found reasonable grounds to believe the 2 officers committed criminal offenses. The fiery collision involving 6 vehicles happened last year on April 29th and claimed the lives of a 3-month-old infant and the child's grandparents, who were 60 and 55 years old. The 3 were traveling in a Nissan Sentra with the baby's parents, who survived the crash, changing their lives forever.
Regardless of the results of the SIU investigation, this was a tragic and catastrophic event that resulted in the death of innocent lives, devastated a family, and has profoundly impacted our community.
The chase began with a robbery at an LCBO store in Bowmanville. An off-duty officer confronted a suspect who allegedly brandished a knife. The suspect took off in a U-Haul truck, and the officer followed them for a time before other marked vehicles followed the suspect and got on the eastbound 401 going the wrong way. Radio communications obtained by CTV News during the pursuit suggest up to 12 police vehicles were involved. The pursuit ended with a head-on collision. The 21-year-old driver of the U-Haul was also killed.
Whether your concern is centered on a suspected criminal who fled from the police or a concern with the decision-making of officers during this event, we must all have respect for our justice system and be patient for this process to unfold.
Sergeant Richard Flynn and Constable Brandon Hamilton are each facing 3 counts of criminal negligence causing death and 2 counts of criminal death causing harm. A joint statement on behalf of counsel says the officer's sole motivation was to save lives by alerting motorists and trying to stop a bandit who decided to put everyone in mortal danger. That bandit is the one responsible for the tragic outcome, not the police. These charges are wrong, and we intend to show that in court.
Now that the SIU criminal investigation has concluded, I'm required by law to conduct an internal investigation into the conduct of DRPS members, policing provided in relation to this event, and an examination of our internal procedures.
The 2 officers have been suspended with pay. They are required to appear in court in February. Reporting live, I'm Beth McTonnell. Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Beth. We turn to a wild scene that unfolded in downtown Toronto last night. A stolen Hummer ramming police cruisers, the driver trying to evade arrest. We've learned the suspect behind the wheel is no stranger to the law. CTV's Janice Golding joins us live with the details. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. It certainly was a wild scene here on George Street, just north of Richmond. In fact, I'm standing on debris. There's debris beside us. There's debris all the way across the street to that building, which is where the Hummer got surrounded by police cruisers. If you take a look at my hand, you'll see that this is a handle from one of those vehicles. Lost its handle when the suspect was trying to get away. This dramatic video shows the moments leading up to the arrest of a suspect. Officers closing in on him while the driver tries to push past Toronto police cruisers in a stolen Hummer. Despite his attempts to get away, however,
all guns pointed.
The man would ultimately be boxed in, sandwiched between police SUVs in a building on George Street just north of Richmond.
We just looked out the window and saw the Hummer come down really fast down the street, and then literally like 8 or 9 cop cars swarm from all directions.
There was like a big screeching sound and a big bang, and then when we came outside we saw like the stolen vehicle going in circles trying to get away from the cops, but the cops were blocking him into the wall, so then he was stuck.
Residents say it was around 10:15 when they heard the commotion outside their doors, and when they looked outside to see what was happening, they couldn't believe their eyes. Armed officers surrounding a car, some climbing vehicles as they attempted to get to the suspect.
It was really, really scary and like chaotic. They also had like a bunch of guns pulled and stuff, so it felt really scary.
Investigators say the Hummer's driver was out on bail after being arrested in connection with a previous incident involving a police pursuit of a stolen vehicle.
We are very lucky we don't have an officer that was either killed or injured, seriously injured last night.
Toronto Police Association President Clayton Campbell expressing anger as he renewed calls for bail reform. Durham.
Yeah, he's 32 years of age with 75 convictions. We completely support restorative justice, but this is 75 chances. This person needs to be in custody.
Witnesses say police ultimately tased the suspect before dragging him out of the vehicle.
You could hear the moaning, groaning, and it was really uncomfortable and scary.
32-year-old George Nathan Sault has been charged with 8 offenses, including theft of a motor vehicle, failure to stop for police, assault of a peace officer, and breaching bail conditions. Now, court sources tell CTV News that Sault has faced charges on at least 8 other occasions in other jurisdictions, including Ohsweken, Hamilton, and Brantford, and the first offense dates back more than a dozen years. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. And there was a similar incident overnight in Hamilton. Halton police say they found a Toyota 4Runner on Parkdale Avenue. It was reported stolen in Burlington. As police tried to apprehend the vehicle, they're alleging it crashed into 2 police cruisers before driving some distance and losing control. A 41-year-old man and 24-year-old woman were arrested nearby. No injuries were reported.
About to take the reins, promising to slap Canada with sweeping tariffs. Tonight, we take an in-depth look at how Trump's plans will impact local businesses and Canadians.
But we turn to the effort to respond to emergencies in the city and the financial cost that comes with it.
As the city grapples with its proposed budget and a nearly 7% property tax increase, Toronto paramedics are looking for more money. CTV's Natalie Johnson is live at City Hall with the story. Natalie.
Well, Michelle, Toronto's paramedic service is still recovering from the pressures of the pandemic and struggling with retention and recruitment. And now there is concern that their call volume could spike when the city's supervised consumption sites close in March.
In a life-threatening emergency, every minute counts, and the head of Toronto EMS says so too does every additional paramedic.
The addition of staff will really help to address our call volumes in general, will help to address some of the healthcare system pressures that we're dealing with.
Toronto's 2025 budget includes $3.4 million for 102 new EMS positions, 95 of them frontline paramedics, which some councillors say will be needed more than ever once the city's safe consumption sites shut down in March under orders from the province.
It will impact our service calls. It will impact our emergency rooms, and I just feel we need to be prepared.
The concern that without access to supervised consumption and built-in intervention, the EMS call volume could increase. Toronto paramedics report that since 2019, there has been a 54% increase in emergency calls for drug toxicity.
It is possible that it may grow even more once these sites close.
Nobody knows exactly how bad this problem is going to be. It's one of the reasons why the province shouldn't be doing it. They have no idea how many people are going to start dying or needing emergency services on the streets of Toronto.
The projected EMS response time last year was 14.5 minutes for life-threatening calls. Target for 2025 is 14.8, a number that councillors worry could be strained by the closure of the consumption sites.
If this one action erodes that improvement and we're back to response times growing, just because of this one initiative, that's going to be heartbreaking.
If there is an increase in those types of events, we will respond as we normally do every single day.
As paramedics and politicians try to prepare for more frontline support, they hope they won't need.
And Toronto Fire will also be monitoring the impact on call volume of the closure of those consumption sites. Chief Jim Jessup telling the Budget Committee today that firefighters administer naloxone about 100 times a year to save lives. Reporting live at City Hall, I'm Natalie Johnson. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Natalie. Still ahead, money in the mail. The Ford government's tax rebate checks are on the way. Much needed funds as many struggle, or a pre-ballot box bribe. We'll tell you how much you can expect and when.
But first, a live look on this Friday night at our beautiful city. We are above the freezing mark temperature-wise, a little reprieve worth enjoying as we anticipate a drop into the deep, deep freeze next week. Let's bring in Lindsay Morrison for a look at the current conditions. And pretty nice right now if you want to take a stroll downtown.
Not bad at all, Michelle. Enjoy this while you can because, yes, big changes are on the way. It is currently 2 degrees in the city of Toronto, 1 in Hamilton, 2 in Niagara Falls. Winds are part of the reason and we have to thank for this warm-up. They're coming out of the south. They are quite strong, though, and Environment Canada issued a special weather statement as far south as Orangeville, extending to Owen Sound for 80-kilometer-per-hour gusts this evening. Now, there is a little bit of snow right now falling around Georgian Bay. All is dry where we are. It's going to be a bit of a different story tomorrow. We do have a weak system moving in, and then the big story for next week, the polar vortex and the coldest air we've experienced all season long on the way. We'll talk all about it coming up in your weather forecast. For now, Nathan, over to you.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. Ready to retaliate. Canadian officials say they're prepared to hit back with countermeasures if Donald Trump slaps tariffs on our exports.
The Prime Minister met this afternoon with his Canada-U.S. Relations Council 3 days before those tariffs could become a reality. CTV's Rachel Aiello reports.
Hey, guys.
The Canadian government is bracing for a trade war and readying a multi-phase response plan.
If push comes to shove, we will be strong and unequivocal in our defense of Canada and Canadians.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met with his new Canada-U.S. Relations Council today.
If the worst-case scenario comes to pass, we will need all your knowledge, insights, expertise, and, quite frankly, connections.
Vowing if U.S. President-elect Donald Trump follows through on his threat to slap a 25% tariff on Canadian imports, Canada will hit back. CTV News has confirmed Ottawa is prepared to reveal on Monday an initial round of retaliatory tariffs on a targeted list of American goods. If provoked, following a likely brief consultation period, Canada is set to levy those countermeasures. Leaning into her tense history with Trump.
So we're back for more negotiations.
Chrystia Freeland confirmed today she's running to take him on as Trudeau's replacement and will unveil her plan to fight for Canada at an official launch on Sunday. Previewing her approach in a new op-ed, Freeland writes that Canada's counterpunch must be dollar for dollar, precisely and painfully targeted, and if pushed, would be the single largest trade blow the U.S. economy has ever endured.
This would be basically starting a trade war.
Coming out of meetings with U.S. lawmakers, the Foreign Affairs Minister said today she is still trying to prevent tariffs.
And when I mentioned the impacts of a Trump tariff tax on Americans, they're not only surprised, they're very worried.
The anticipated economic storm has dissuaded some senior Liberals from entering the race to replace Trudeau. Today, Natural Resources Minister Jonathan Wilkinson was the latest to confirm that he won't be running, as he sees the energy file as essential to Canada's ability to negotiate. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
The Premier has warned U.S. tariffs on Canada would be devastating to the economy, resulting in a loss of up to 500,000 jobs.
Tonight, we begin a special series looking at the industries that could be hit the hardest. CTV Sean Leathon talks to businesses bracing for what their financial future might hold.
From tiny parts in the auto industry to food prepared for store shelves, even the chemicals that go into everyday products. The prospect of a 25% tariff on Canadian exports to the United States paint a grim picture.
It will be bad for us.
It's going to make our products more expensive.
It's a solid punch in the face, for sure.
We visited 3 businesses in the GTA to get a sense of how tariffs would be felt locally.
These are fully automatic machines.
Casey Vasudeva is the owner of Ultraform Manufacturing in Etobicoke. They've been in business 50 years and are one of over 250 producers of small auto parts in Canada. Parts made here are sold to a company that makes cooling systems and then sold to car manufacturers, including the big 3 in America.
We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that.
Of the top 10 exports to the United States, automotive parts rank 3rd behind crude oil and passenger cars, with just under $23 billion in 2023. Vasudeva disputes Trump's claim, saying tariffs would mean pain for local part makers, but they can't last because
We are so intertwined. Even if Mr. Trump goes do whatever he does, he can't unwind it.
Not far away in Mississauga, a made-in-Canada food provider called Healthy Crunch is making kale chips. Founded 10 years ago by registered dietitian and chef Julie Bednarski, their focus on healthy, non-allergenic food has been a success in Canada and put them on the cusp of large-scale expansion into the U.S., signing deals with major retailers like Whole Foods, Walmart, and Target. sales were projected to more than double in 2025.
And then if we're going to have an extra 25% or even higher extra tariff on our products when we're shipping it to the U.S., it's dramatically going to change the price of the product, and consumers might not purchase our products in the U.S.
Intermediate food producers like Healthy Crunch make up the 9th most exported items into the United States, just under $12 billion. But now, sales are hard to predict given the possible uneven playing field. Hey, Greg. Over in Brampton, Mohit Sharma gives us a tour of Zochem, a plant that turns this into this, creating zinc oxide.
Zinc oxide is ubiquitous in your day-to-day life. It goes into tires, rubber, agriculture, which is animal feed and fertilizer. It's into pharmaceutical products such as your multivitamins, your sunscreen, your baby's diaper rash cream.
Zochem is headquartered in Tennessee, with half of their production in Brampton. They're the largest producer of zinc oxide in North America, shipping over $100 million worth into the U.S. annually. Adding 25% cost to their product means
the tariff would be taken on by the customer. 80% of our product goes into the United States.
Making products that are made in Canada and the U.S. more expensive across several sectors. So while businesses here will feel the pain, they say an immediate impact will also be felt by the consumer in the form of higher prices.
And starting Monday, we'll have more with a deeper dive into each of these businesses and how they will be affected if these tariffs are put in place. Sean Leithong, CTV News.
We have more news to share on the financial front tonight. A $200 check could soon be headed your way.
It's a rebate promised by the province. CTV News Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has more on who qualifies.
The check should be arriving in your mailbox soon. $200 as long as you filed taxes last year. There's money going to parents who qualify for the Canada Child Benefit, too. The finance minister announced the move back in the fall.
Revenues were higher. It's the taxpayers' money, and many people are, struggling to pay the bills.
These rebate checks are costing the public purse $3 billion.
They just took a dozen eggs from you, but they're giving you 3 back.
Saying the government is taking by overspending on pet projects.
I think people have a right to know where this money is coming from. But at the same time, I know nobody's going to turn down a bit of help right now.
For months, opposition politicians have dismissed the rebates as a pre-ballot box bribe before a potential early vote they see as expensive and unnecessary.
He's not fixing the things that need to be fixed, like our healthcare system, our school system, and people want those things to change. A $200 check is not going to change those things.
Away from Queen's Park, there's mixed reaction.
They should have to spend it on the homeless people, help them out.
I think it's good for families. It's good for younger people. There's been a lot of inflation these days, so I think it'll help them.
200 is nothing. It's pennies. So, thanks, I guess, but that's really not where it's at.
The decision to send out cash under renewed scrutiny with the threat of U.S. tariffs looming large. The premier has promised tens of billions of dollars in stimulus spending if tariffs stick around, and also said he needs a new mandate to spend that kind of money, a position his finance minister defends.
Well, it's their money. And, where we've got a path to balance, if we're going to respond to what may happen, I think it's fair to say, hey, what are we going to do with your money?
Opposition leaders continue to insist the premier doesn't need a new mandate. They're ready to collaborate on tariff strategy. The Liberals and NDP well behind Doug Ford's Progressive Conservatives in public opinion polling. At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
It's about to get a little easier for seniors 80 and up to renew their driver's licenses. Drivers in that age group have to renew their G or M class licenses every 2 years, and they have to undergo vision and cognitive screening assessments. Up until now, those tests have been carried out at locations other than Service Ontario, and that meant the renewal process would take at least 2 separate trips. The ministry responsible now says select Service Ontario locations will offer those tests starting February 3rd, and all will do so by the spring.
The latest figures from the province shows nearly 2,000 Ontarians were hospitalized because of COVID, flu, and RSV infections. Public Health Ontario shared those figures from the week of January 5th through the 11th. Over 1,000 patients were admitted for treatment while battling COVID infections, and 5 died. 507 patients were in hospital for the flu and 375 for RSV. Provincial tracking of lab tests showed the virus is still spreading at a moderate level. Health experts say it's not too late to get vaccinated if eligible to protect yourself from more severe outcomes.
Also today, local officials confirmed 2 snowy owls found dead in the Leslie Spit last month were infected with avian flu. The birds were found around Tommy Thompson Park. The Toronto Region Conservation Authority says it can't confirm whether they were infected with the H5N1 strain that's being monitored across the continent. But the authority is asking residents to report sick or dead birds in the area and not to touch, feed, or handle them.
Homicide investigators have made another arrest in connection with the murder of a Markham realtor. Yuk Ying Anita Moy was reported missing by family on August 9th. The 56-year-old's vehicle was found near Warden and Finch, and days later, her burned remains were found in Parry Sound. 3 youths were arrested for having Moy's property in their possession. And last month, 2 men were charged with manslaughter. Police say on Thursday, they arrested 19-year-old Javin Liu of Toronto and charged him with manslaughter, kidnapping, and other offenses. Another suspect, 47-year-old Jean-Marco Hu of Markham, is facing a Canada-wide warrant, but it's believed he fled to Hong Kong.
And York Regional Police have arrested a suspect wanted in a New Year's Day shooting in King Township. That evening, officers responded to a motel near Highway 11 and Canal Road. They found a 24-year-old man with non-life-threatening gunshot wounds and later issued a warrant for 33-year-old Andrew Joseph Pitre. He was arrested in Georgina on Wednesday on charges including attempted murder.
A ceasefire to pause the fighting in Gaza and release hostages has received final approval from Israel. The country's full cabinet met today.
The ceasefire was announced 2 days ago, but Israel delayed crucial votes. Now major hurdles that had been holding up the agreement have been cleared. CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin has the latest.
Hostages taken into Gaza 468 days ago will start coming home Sunday, according to Israel. After last-minute talks and infighting within his government, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened his security cabinet. Its endorsement cleared a key hurdle to sealing the deal. For now, Israeli strikes continue to pound Gaza. But under the ceasefire deal, fighting will halt on Sunday for a 6-week truce. Hamas has pledged to release 33 hostages, and hospitals in Israel are preparing to care for them. Israel will release a number of Palestinian prisoners and allow up to 600 trucks of desperately needed aid to enter Gaza each day. A second phase of negotiations aimed at ending the war will be held in coming weeks. To many displaced residents in Gaza, this is the first sign of hope for peace in months. There won't be the sound of warplanes, she says, and God willing, people will return to their homes. In Israel, too, there is now guarded hope. Mikhail Aluz thanked negotiators, though he knows his own kidnapped son, Guy, won't be coming home alive.
This deal comes too late for my son, Guy, whose life will not be saved, but he can be brought back home to burial here. Our work is not done. We will not rest until every hostage is home, the living and the dead. They all need to return to us, to their family. Thank you very much.
Israel's full cabinet was meeting well past the beginning of the Sabbath, a reflection of the importance of this moment. Genevieve Beauchemin, CTV News.
Closer to home, a silent vigil was held near Yonge and Eglinton, marking the 2nd birthday of an Israeli hostage taken by Hamas on October 7th. Kafir Bibas was less than a year old when he was taken, alongside his brother and mother. The Palestinian group claims Kafir and his brother are dead, but advocates say that isn't confirmed. The boys are on the list of hostages set to be released under the latest ceasefire deal.
We believe in the value of life, that one person is a whole world. You know, God is closest to the brokenhearted, and we are all brokenhearted right now.
The demonstration was held outside the offices of UNICEF. Participants accused the organization of inaction in ensuring Kafir Bibas's well-being. UNICEF has said the ceasefire deal was long overdue for both the children and families in Gaza and the hostages and their families in Israel.
To Washington, where the U.S. Supreme Court unanimously upheld a federal law banning TikTok today.
The law will take effect on Sunday unless TikTok's Chinese parent company sells the app, but that's not expected to happen. The court decided the risk to national security posed by TikTok because of its ties to China outweighs concerns about limiting speech. The video app will not disappear from the phones of its 170 million American users once the law takes effect, but new users won't be able to download it, and updates won't be available, eventually rendering the app unworkable. Donald Trump has vowed to negotiate a solution to keep TikTok available to Americans. After the court ruling, Trump had this to say on his Truth Social platform. The Supreme Court decision was expected, and everyone must respect it. My decision on TikTok will be made in the not-too-distant future, but I must have time to review the situation. Stay tuned. The law also bars app stores operated by Apple, Google, and others from offering TikTok, and internet hosting services will be prohibited from hosting the app.
Meanwhile, Trump is moving his inauguration indoors because of severe cold temperatures forecast for Washington. The U.S. president-elect will be sworn in Monday in the Capitol Hill Rotunda. Trump says this decision was made because he doesn't want to see anyone hurt by the bitter weather. -7-degree temperatures plus wind chill are expected around the time of inauguration. The indoor ceremony will limit crowd size compared to an outdoor event, but people will be able to watch it on screens inside Capital One Arena. And the presidential parade along Pennsylvania Avenue to the White House will be switched to the arena. The last time the oath of office was taken indoors was 40 years ago, also because of extremely cold weather. And CTV News will have extensive coverage of the inauguration of Donald J. Trump on Monday, beginning at 9 a.m. on CTV News Channel and ctvnews.ca.
We take you to Spain now, where dozens of pet owners took their animals to church today. Catholic priests blessed them on the day of St. Anthony, the patron saint of animals. The ceremony took place on the steps outside the St. Anthony Church in Madrid. Dogs and cats were sprinkled with holy water in a Catholic tradition meant to bring the animals health and protection for the coming year. An annual mass also takes place when the pets are welcome inside the church.
Coming up, answering the need, Canadian firefighters on the ground in California donating their aid and expertise in the overwhelming battle against deadly wildfires. An update on their efforts still ahead.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up, it's Feedback Friday. More families are surprised obituaries are being shared on a website they didn't know about. More viewers are stuck in expensive contracts after a company goes under. And if you're planning to invest, watch out for fake AI videos. Feedback Friday is just ahead.
I'm Jessica Smith at the Toronto International Boat Show for the 67th edition of the event. Coming up, we'll have more on all the different ways you can get out on the water heading into the summer of 2025.
Well, that looks like fun. What's less fun? The wind chills expected for next week, feeling like -30, and that means a higher risk of frostbite. Exposed skin can freeze in 10 to 30 minutes. If you have to be outside, many people do work outdoors. Here are the signs and symptoms to watch for. Otherwise, it's going to be a good week to be indoors. We're going to take you through your weather forecast coming up here when CTV News returns in 2 minutes.
We had a lot of reaction to our stories on a company promising government rebates that went out of business and Play Airlines leaving Canada.
More viewers are also worried about fake investment videos and a website that's reposting obituaries without a family's permission. Here's Pat Foran and Feedback Friday. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. The website that posts obituaries also allows people to purchase virtual candles and memorial trees. After our story, other viewers checked the website and were shocked to find their loved ones' death notices posted without their knowledge. The Ross family is mourning the death of Paul Ross, who died just before Christmas. The family was shocked by his passing, and they were also surprised to find out his obituary had been reposted on a website they were unaware of that sells virtual candles and memorial trees.
I felt it was a huge violation.
The Echo Vita website told CTV News its mission is to make public information accessible free of charge and that it complies with all Canadian laws. But Raquel wrote, "This is despicable. We just lost our dad and they're trying to profit from his death and our sorrow. We didn't authorize this website to publish his info." Uzair Shahid signed a contract with Provincial Smart Home Services to get a heat pump, water heater, and smart thermostat for $25,000. Along with gift cards, he was promised a $7,500 rebate, 0% financing, and a 10-year protection plan. The rebate never came. Provincial Smart Homes is out of business, and loan interest has gone up.
The rebate never came in. Gift card, $200, never came in.
Valerie told us, I also got caught up in this scheme. I owe $42,000 for a $9,000 heat pump. It's shocking this is allowed to happen. Play Airlines is a discount carrier flying out of Hamilton Airport with a stopover in Iceland on the way to Europe. But the company is pulling out of Canada in April. Passengers who have tickets with Play aren't sure what to do.
These passengers need to be looked after by the airline.
A spokesperson told us we're contacting passengers and offering them a refund, a voucher with extra value, or rebooking to another destination within Play's schedule. People are tricked into investing with criminals when they see fake news stories or advertisements manipulated with AI. Jim wrote, I saw an opportunity to invest starting with only $350 that is being promoted by the Prime Minister. Is this real?
With an investment of $350, you will start earning from $1,100 per day.
The Prime Minister's voice has been manipulated to claim Canadians can get rich quick with no risk. Watch out for these videos and tell friends and family about AI and how it can be used to create fake videos. And these fake videos are often found on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Even if they look and sound convincing, common sense will tell you massive returns with no risk are not possible and are indeed scams. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
As we prepare for what could be a memorable stretch of wintry weather, today marks the anniversary of a major storm. Remember this? It was 3 years ago, January 17th, 2022, that our city was buried under heavy amounts of snow.
A rare blizzard warning was issued for Toronto. Major highways were shut down. Motorists were stranded. And then Mayor John Tory declared a major snowstorm condition as some neighborhoods dug out from nearly 50 centimeters. And we have vivid memories of this. I actually remember I was off sick, and I remember thinking, thank goodness I'm off sick, so I don't have to drive in this. And Nathan had to come in because it was a big news day, and that was an adventure for you.
I remember leaving early, and remember thanking God I've got snow tires, and the DVP was shut down, if you remember that, so I had to go along the Danforth, take all these side streets, make a few U-turns, but I finally made it.
You made
11:30, the show was at noon. That's pretty good.
I got it, which was like an hour late for me.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. And I was on maternity leave, my first maternity leave during that storm, but my husband tried to go to work. He made it 2 kilometers in 2 hours and then had to turn back around.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, very memorable for so many people. And while we don't have anything like that in the forecast, we do have a little bit of snow in store for tomorrow morning. It will be wet snow, maybe mixed with rain in some cases, and then the cold air is going to move in after that. Today was a bit of a break from both the cold and the active weather. Look at that, the Scarborough Bluffs shining under the sunshine today, as seen by our CTV News chopper. Not a whole lot of ice to be seen. It was very mild today. We made it to 2 degrees, and we are still there at this hour. We're going to hold steady temperature-wise through these overnight hours as well. So we're going to be waking up to some mild conditions also. 2 degrees, the overnight low, not so low. And then here is tomorrow morning, maybe climbing to about 3, but then the system snow is going to move through. It's about 2 centimeters of slushy wet snow is what we're expecting. And in some areas, this is going to mix with rain, as mentioned, especially if you live right along the shoreline of Lake Ontario. That's where you're more likely to see a little bit of rain mix in. Areas to the north will see more so in the way of snow. This is quick moving. It's expected to move out as we make our way into the early part of tomorrow afternoon. Behind it, clearer. We're going to get into some lake effect snow for areas a little bit further north and west. And then the cold air, that's going to be our big story. As early as Saturday night, certainly continuing into Sunday and beyond. Now, I want to mention the winds for tonight. They're very strong coming out of the south, especially around the Owen Sound area, for example. Gusts of around 70 or 80 kilometers per hour possible tonight. And then those winds are going to change direction tomorrow after the cold front swings through and that Arctic air moves in. So tomorrow, just to put this all into perspective for you, we start off the day at about 3 degrees. By dinner time, we're roughly -3. So a little bit of flash freezing is going to be possible because of the rain or snow that has fallen on the ground. Watch for slippery or icy conditions Saturday night. And then here it comes, polar vortex moving in. This will be especially bitter for Monday and Tuesday of next week. Already I'm starting to see some signs of a little bit of relief as we make our way into the second half of next week. So that's good news, but we have to deal with some pain before that. Here is the 7-day forecast. We go from 3 degrees on Saturday to -8 degrees for a high on Sunday. Overnight into the minus double digits, remaining in the minus double digits for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Last time we had a daytime high that cold was nearly 2 years ago. It looks as though we've got some flurries in store along with some sunshine, so I suppose there's that, but also wind chills Monday, Tuesday, making it feel close to -25, -30, and then slowly the temperature climbs back up to what suddenly looks comfortable at -4 degrees for both Thursday and Friday. Plenty of cold weather on the way. Stay warm this weekend. That's your look at the forecast for now. Nathan, over to you.
Good advice. Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, showing their love for LA. A long list of celebrities locked in to perform at the FireAid benefit concert. The lineup coming up.
As wildfires devastate Southern California, governments on this side of the border have been quick to offer assistance in the fight.
As CTV's Sarah Freemark reports, firefighters from Muskoka are among the Canadians taking part in the effort, but they're doing so as volunteers.
What we saw was just complete devastation. Rows on rows of homes burnt and people losing everything. It's been heartbreaking.
South of the border, wildfires continue to burn, but there is growing support on the ground, including 4 Canadian firefighters who made the trip from Lake of Bays Township in Muskoka to Los Angeles.
It's humanity at its finest, and I certainly hope that's something that could be a takeaway if there's any positives here. It truly is just people helping people, and that's what we're doing. We have lots of firefighting experience and everything else, but really at the end of the day, it just comes down to we saw a need to help.
Matthew Young is the station chief at Huntsville Lake of Bays Fire Department, but he and 3 others from the team decided, with support from their local department, to head to California on their own time and dime.
With everything's involved, we understand all that work, and that's why we said whether we're coming down to hand water out, whether we're coming down to give support in any other way, that's why we're here.
The team setting up a GoFundMe for those that want to help cover their costs, but much of the support felt on the scene.
I can't explain to you the gratitude everyone's had for us down here. I've never had so many hugs, so many thank yous. I'm not really an emotional guy. I've had a couple individuals come up to me, show me pictures in their story, and I've had to take 5 or 6 seconds to myself and go, wow, these people are in need.
Oh my God, it's gone. It's gone.
Even actor Eva Longoria stopped by to drop off new boots, PPE, lunch, and coffee. But Matt shying away from anyone who calls him and his team heroes.
I think the heroes are the people of the community, to be honest. Watching these people come together, doing what they're doing, those are the heroes working together. We're just here to support them.
Sarah Freemark, CTV News.
Staying in California, a slew of big-name talent have been announced for 2 concerts that will raise money for LA fire victims. The FireAid show, as it's called, will take place January 30th at the Kia Forum and nearby Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Already confirmed are Billie Eilish, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Lady Gaga, Pink, Katy Perry, Jelly Roll, and Stevie Nicks. Tickets go on sale next Wednesday, but the shows will also stream live online.
Several new movie releases will be aiming for the #1 spot during the weekend box office.
Hello? We were in an accident.
The Universal Blumhouse remake of 1941's The Wolf Man is on track to earn around $20 million U.S. over the 4-day stretch, while SZA and Keke Palmer star in the comedy One of Them Days. They'll be facing off against earlier releases like last week's #1 Den of Thieves 2.
After the break, dozens of staff shown the door at Hudson's Bay. What the Toronto-based retailer had to say about the layoffs and the retail landscape.
We must all have respect for our justice system and be patient for this process to unfold.
Updating our top stories, the province's Special Investigations Unit has charged 2 Durham police officers in connection with a deadly crash on the 401 back in April. Police had been pursuing a robbery suspect driving the wrong way. Now they're accused of criminal negligence causing death. The officers' counsel called the charges wrong.
There was like a big screeching sound and a big bang. And then when we came outside, we saw like the stolen vehicle going in circles.
Dramatic video from downtown Toronto last night. A suspect accused of stealing a Hummer is accused of slamming the vehicle into multiple police cruisers while trying to evade arrest on George Street north of Richmond. Police say 32-year-old George Sault was charged with 8 offenses, including theft of a motor vehicle and breaching bail conditions.
What's their money?
They just took a dozen eggs from you, but they're giving you 3 back.
And the province says it has begun mailing out those $200 rebate checks as promised by Premier Doug Ford. To be eligible, the province says residents must have been 18 or older on December 31st of 2023 and have filed their 2023 income tax return by the end of last year.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video breaking news, let us know.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar was down 1/3 of a cent to 69.12 cents U.S. Western Canadian Select oil was down $1.29 to $64.16. And the TSX Composite Index was up more than 221 points to close at nearly 25,068.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Hudson's Bay says it has laid off 41 staff as it goes through a structural revamp. A spokesperson for the retailer didn't specify what roles or cities they laid off staff in, but she said the move comes amid challenging headwinds for the retail industry. Hudson's Bay previously laid off about 1% of its workforce back in April and an unspecified number of cuts over the summer.
Toronto Raptors are in Milwaukee tonight, hoping to keep their modest winning streak going.
Letting the clock work. Scotty down the lane. Jakob Poeltl on the scene. Offensive rebound, put back.
Toronto won 2 in a row after beating the Celtics 110-97 on Wednesday. Tonight, the Raptors will look to build on their back-to-back victories. The Bucks have won their last 2 games.
And the Maple Leafs are in Montreal tomorrow after an overtime win against New Jersey last night. William Nylander scored his 2nd goal of the game to give Toronto the 4-3 victory. Austin Matthews also found the back of the net twice.
Meanwhile, the Toronto Blue Jays have acquired outfielder Miles Straw from Cleveland. He appeared in 7 games for the Guardians last season, spending most of the year in AAA. The Jays also get cash considerations and international signing bonus pool space for 2025. Cleveland receives a player to be named later or cash considerations.
Well, this might float your boat. Just ahead, we'll take you on a journey to the International Boat Show, docked here in Toronto once again. A peek at the big toys and the attractions that'll have you longing for warmer months.
Tonight, the clock is ticking. The U.S. Supreme Court upholds a ban on TikTok.
There is a lot of panic at the moment that I'm seeing, and it's totally justified.
How Donald Trump can influence the final outcome and the impact for Canada later on CTV National News.
We are still months away from glorious scenes like this, but what better way to beat the winter blues than thinking about spending time on the water?
The 67th annual boat show opens tomorrow in Toronto, and today, CTV Jessica Smith dropped anchor at the Enercare Centre for a preview.
The Toronto International Boat Show is the largest of its kind in North America. Whether you're heading out for a paddle on Lake Ontario or you're setting sail on larger waters, there's a watercraft for whatever your needs are.
There's fishing boats, there's deck boats, pontoon boats, wakeboard boats. Like it's endless depending what you want to do on the water. So really from small right up to luxury and large.
For the adventure seekers, Charlie Newlands with SWS Muskoka says there's a ton of different ways to catch a wave, like a flight board if a boat isn't your speed.
Going fast, doing nice turns, being out there, like if there's some nice waves, you can kind of surf the waves a bit. But just, being out and, being active.
And if you want to forego a gas-powered pontoon, you can go electric.
Options. I would say there are a lot of options for people that want to try electric, like the flight board, like the jet surf that you're watching.
Making its debut at the 2025 show, the Go Boat. It folds up into a backpack geared for those who want to be more mobile with their water vessels. With safety top of mind, a Canadian company is launching a first of its kind in safety equipment.
First ever in the world, Transport Canada approved, and they're glow-in-the-dark ropes, buoys, fenders, life rings. It's an amazing invention.
From the big boat enthusiasts or for those just looking for a relaxing way to float, there's a different way to enjoy the water for everyone.
It's really for anybody, as long as you're comfortable in the water. You're always going to have a life jacket on and a helmet for safety, but the learning curve is fairly simple, and it's really for everybody.
The Toronto International Boat Show runs here at the Enercare Centre starting January 18th, running all the way through to the 26th. Jessica Smith, CTV News, Toronto.
Ooh, ride those waves.
Fun. Wouldn't you love to be out on the water?
That would be so
in a nice warm climate.
No, I think if you're by the water, even today, it being mild, it wouldn't be comfortable.
Yeah, maybe not quite yet. Couple of months away, but hey, we are mild tonight, and overnight tonight our temperature is going to hold steady at about 2 degrees. Here's a look at what you can expect. Rising to around 3 by morning, and part of the reason why, strong southerly winds. There's a weather advisory in place for Orangeville north toward Owen Sound, that is. And then your weekend forecast looks like this. Big temperature drop as early as Saturday night. You're really going to feel it on Sunday. And then once again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, bitterly cold. Stay safe out there. Nathan and Michelle.
Thanks, Lindsay. That is it for us on this Friday, but you can join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.